you ready for the truth?
Hello, and welcome to this Question Entertainment Extra, the career of
writer and director M Night Shyamalan.
In 2004, he followed up with a movie called The Village. He was asked to write and direct a movie version of the book Wuthering Heights. He decided not to, but said that he fell in love with the time period. So in The Village, a group of settlers have established a community in rural Philadelphia, but they've cut themselves off from the rest of the world. There's a wood around them that they believe is filled with monsters so that they should never pass through.
I do really like his movies, particularly The Village. To me, that's the best. That's my favorite. And it could have to do with Joaquin Phoenix. But it's a great movie.
The movie is excellent. It's well constructed. It's fun to watch. It has great surprises throughout. Joaquin Phoenix is starring in it again. Bryce Dallas Howard. It has an amazing cast and a great story. The Village isn't overtly spiritual. There's one reference to the fact that love is important, and some people even worship love, which could be a reference to Christianity. The way it's stated and what Shyamalan has said in his past films, I'd say it was a reference to Christianity. But the really cool spiritual thing is that this movie is essentially an experiment. A bunch of people went through and set up this village on the hypothesis evil is taught by society, so therefore cloistering yourself will protect you. So the experiment is to find out, is evil taught by society, or is man inherently sinful? Is man born with a sin nature, and therefore sin will find you no matter how much you cut yourself off? Then in 2006, he put out Lady in the Water. This one almost rivals Signs for me as being my favorite of his. Here he kind of continues with the village theme by having it be about a group of people all living in an apartment complex. But then, like Signs, we have this sort of extraordinary circumstance invading the mundane everyday to draw out the real importance of people's lives. Over the credits, we get a fairy tale, which he actually also put out a kid's book called Lady in the Water that just has this fairy tale. The kid's book's kind of lame, but it's very cool to own an M Night Shyamalan kid's book and have your daughter say, "Daddy, will you read me M Night Shyamalan?" at 2. By the way. So in the beginning, there's a fairy tale about sea nymphs called narfs that appear to people and cause them sort of the courage to be able to fulfill their purpose, thus bringing together a lot of his former themes. An actual sea nymph is found in the apartment's swimming pool, and the characters start trying to help her succeed on her mission and be able to return home. Now, aside from being just another wonderful M. Night Shyamalan movie, this movie is also particularly exciting if you've read J.R.R. Tolkien's On Fairy Stories. It's an essay. You can get it in the Tolkien Reader. You can usually find them on eBay for like $1 or even Amazon. When Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, a lot of people had asked him, what does it mean? While he was writing it, he'd done a lesson on fairy stories, explaining how to look at fairy stories, how to understand their importance, and what they mean to society and what they mean to individuals. In Lady in the Water, when the characters meet the sea nymph, it turns out her name is Story. And then, in investigating how to help her, they go through, almost point by point, every tenet that Tolkien lays out in his essay. I don't know that M. Night Shyamalan had done this on purpose, but I'd be very shocked to find out that he's not familiar with this writing. The other great thing is the culmination of Tolkien's essay, which you really should read. When I was teaching high school literature and we did On Fairy Stories, I'd make sure they all watched Lady in the Water right afterwards. On Fairy Stories ends with Tolkien explaining that the gospel is the greatest fairy story there is. Not that it's not real. He explains that any one of us would be just thrilled to find out one of the old fairy tales was actually true, that it really happened in real life, and when it happened in real life, it didn't lose any of its magic or any of its meaning, that it wasn't based on true events and then manipulated over time, that it really was exactly what it said. And he said that the gospel is the greatest fairy story ever written because not only does it encapsulate every wonderful thing about fairy tales, it is true. The fairy tale stepped into reality in the person of Jesus. And then he goes on to say that fairy tales connect us with the amazing and the magical and just the wonder that is a life in which God exists and God works and God is part of you. So Tolkien found fairy stories and the magic and wonder of fairy stories to feed man's longing for God and ultimately help him search for God. Lady in the Water comes to the same conclusion. Of course, the other thing, if you haven't seen Lady in the Water, you may have heard it was his first movie that was horribly trashed by critics almost universally. Though I don't know what Roger Ebert said about it, and he's usually right. I'll have to check. It was trashed by critics universally, and when people say they haven't seen that one, they usually haven't seen it because of the reviews, and they're like, wow, I heard that was terrible. Here's the thing. It may be because it was deep. It may be because most of secular society doesn't want to be pointed to God. Again, maybe they were willing to deal with it in signs, but not here. But one of the main characters who you essentially learn to loathe throughout the film is a movie critic. I don't know, I just don't think most people are big enough to watch 2 hours of a character strictly making fun of you and everybody in your profession and still be able to sit back and distance yourself enough to say, but that really was a good movie, even though it called me a jerk the whole time. So I really think the movie review character has a lot to do with the bad reviews this film got. I think because of the reviews, Lady in the Water was the first movie he did that actually lost money, which his previous films were record-breaking moneymakers. So that was very sad. In 2008, he was reportedly having his big comeback with The Happening. It was once again trashed by critics. Unfortunately, this time they were well justified, and I don't really think I can handle going through that again. It was just terrible. Of course, we did a full review on that. You can watch that here. I was just very excited about The Happening because, well, it was another one of his movies, and he was really on a winning streak, and I thought could do no wrong. And then weirdly, this movie was tied into Signs a lot, which was his biggest moneymaker. I can see why they did it. It was the last one that was really critically acclaimed. Everybody loved it. The tagline to Signs was, "It's happening." The tagline to The Happening was, "We've seen the signs." Lots of The Happening just felt like a bad rehash of Signs. It was just too bad. In 2010, he's supposed to come out with The Last Airbender, which is a movie version of a Nickelodeon cartoon called Avatar. The cartoon just really seems to be an American version of Japanese anime with a lot of heavy Buddhist symbolism. Having seen a little bit of the cartoon and seen The Happening, I'm not as excited about his next film as I usually am. So what's my recommendation? I would say skip out on The Happening and probably The Sixth Sense, and then start at Lady in the Water and work your way back to Wide Awake. And if you can work your way back to Praying with Anger, let me know. On YouTube, please click subscribe. On our blog, please click the RSS feed.
In the time of my confession, in the hour of my deepest need, when the pool of tears beneath my feet floods every newborn seed, there's a dying voice within me, reaching out somewhere, toiling in the danger and in the morals of despair. Don't have the inclination to look back on any mistake. Like Cain, I now behold this chain of events that I must break. In the fury of the moment, I can see the Master's hand in every leaf that trembles, in every grain of sand. I'm hanging in the balance of the reality of man, like every sparrow falling, like every grain of sand. every great